and he was laughing, and I kept looking at him as we're walking away, and he took his fingers and he snapped like this, and he was gone. Right. It's like, that thinking that the spark of God lives in all of us. So why would not the spark of God and his or her abilities be part of what it is that we do? I mean, if we think about how Reiki works in our bodies, like you're attuned to it, but everybody has it within them. Like when you're a child and you skin your knee and you put your hand over it, it feels better. That's Reiki. Now, Jesus was an amazing healer. I'm not saying I'm Jesus. I'm saying I have a spark of what God gave us and all of his human, children, God, universe, angels, whoever you call your creator, and therefore all of these gifts are not crazy, but to a lot of people it is. That I started to understand a little bit more about, and it was through her help that I started to remember meeting that troll. Because it was her that pointed out to me that said, tell me about, have you ever had any experiences about meeting, things that didn't seem from this world? Or have you ever seen things that were outside of this, whatever? And so I had told her about it, and she's like, yes, you met a troll. But I saw a fairy on a blade of grass, and it was bright red, like a sequence, like when glitter catches the sunlight, and it just had this glow of bright red. And I was like, I remember looking at it going, oh my gosh, it's a fairy. I'm finally seeing it, But then like the rational brain, the human brain comes in and goes, it's just a piece of glitter. So then I'm like, is that glitter? Am I looking at glitter? And then boop, it was gone. And a whole bunch of other things and that were shiny and whatever. And I asked, fairies, if you're here, can I take your picture? And I took the picture, and then we blew it up a little bit, and you could see all the sparkles in the picture.
I love that.
Children are really the closest to the fairy realm, really. So, and a lot of it is kind of unspoken between children and fairies. So it's sort of like, we'll keep you safe if you keep us safe. So if you know to ask your toddler, do you see the fairies? Most likely. And then if you say, it's okay, you can tell me, you might see them smile a little bit, or they might kind of laugh and then run away. There's also lots of things that fairies do that you can know that they're around. Like, for example, if you ever went to a picnic and you're smelling like all of the food and it smells really good, but then once you start to taste it, you're like, why doesn't this taste as good as when I could hear it, when I was smelling it, and I was thinking that it would taste really, really good. And it's like, it's not as flavorful. Yeah, blame the fairies. They took all the aroma. Sometimes they will start to congregate there and have parties in the evening. And it's very, very faint, but if it sounds like music in your yard, it's the one thing to talk about, though, that is important is that there are levels of fairies. Okay, there is when I had talked about, there's the trolls and the brownies, and there's kind of the more earthy ones, like the gnomes and the trolls and the brownies, and there's another one, but I can't think of what it's named at the moment. Those are more of like the earthier ones. They're they kind of live a little bit more underground. And some of what people call them as being dark fairies, they're not dark. They're just earthier. They just vibrate at a different energy, and that's all it is. You can also have there are tree fairies as well. They live in the trees, and also everything in nature has. I was thinking about it this morning. You know that Pocahontas movie that came out, that was the Disney, and she says the colors of the wind, and she talks every rock, every tree, and every plant has a face, has a name.
It's older.
Yes, it's much older, right? But if you were to listen to that song, that is accurate. There are faces on all trees. There are faces in all wood. There's faces in every rock. There are tree people. There are bush people. There are rock people. and they're all part of the fairy realm. I'm not surprised. So here's the thing. You don't know necessarily what your house was built on. If your house was built on a fairy, place, and no one asked the fairies if they could build there, then you bet. In fact, there's a story that a friend of ours told me that when he was working in Ireland, for, I don't know, 6 months or something like that. And there was a house that they were working on, and the house had an electrical fire, and it burned to the ground. And so then they started rebuilding it again, and that had a problem, and that burned to the ground. Finally, it was what they figured out is that where they were building was sacred to the fairies.